How are you, everybody? In this part, we are going to talk about narrative writing and figurative language. Let's start with narrative writing. What is narrative writing? It's a very important question. A narrative writing is a story containing specific elements that work together to create interest for not only the author, but also the reader. This type of narrative makes the reader feel as if her or she were part of the story, as if it was being told directly to him or her. We have a lot of elements of narrative writing. The first one and the most important one is the plot. The plot means who, what, where, when, why and how outline that gives it a narrative direction. What is the story about? Events unfold as they happen. The frame of the narrative. Plot structure of narrative writing. How can we start our story? The beginning should be enticing opening to capture the reader's interest. Setting revealed. Main characters introduced. Conflict presented. Then we are going to move to the middle of the story. Characters attempt to resolve conflicts or problems. Action progress sequentially, step by step. Climax. It's the most important point in the story, the most exciting one. We consider it the turning point of the story. Reveals the process involved for solving the conflicts. After that, we move to the end of the story, the conclusion, which tells how the resolution of the conflicts have affected the characters. No new characters or plot ideas introduced in the conclusion, of course. Theme or message understood by the reader. You need to express your feeling and the morale, the lesson that you have learned from the story in your conclusion. We have another important element of narrative writing, characters. The people, animals, or inanimate objects who are affected by the action of the plot or who are the cause of certain events. Characters, real or imaginative, should be brought to life through the narrative. If a character is not described well, the story will not be believable. So you need to describe your characters well. Setting. Setting means the time and the place of the story, where and when the narrative takes place. Allows the readers to visualize the scenes and the characters in those scenes. Although the setting may be clear for the author, he must create a picture for the readers. So you need to use the descriptive language to describe and to portray the setting. Another element is the conflict. The problem that must be overcome or resolved so that the readers will not be left hanging. There are a lot of types of conflict. For example, person versus self, person versus person, person versus society, person versus machine or technology, person versus nature. Another important element in the narrative writing is theme. A theme is a message revealed in the story. It may be directly, like in a fable, where the moral is told in the conclusion. It may be indirect, leaving the reader to decide the story's message. There can be more than one theme for a narrative. Narrative can be told by different points of view or from different points of view. Who's telling the story? First person? I, as the narrator? And the effect of this point of view, it's good for personal accounts. Example, I will never forget the day that my hamster died. Third person point of view. If he, she, it, their perspective, the narrator can write about the thoughts and feelings of all the characters, and it's effective in the narrative. Example, she called him a liar, though she knew he was telling the truth. In your narrative, you should answer 5 W+H questions methods. Answering the 5 W+H questions provides the basic information needed to tell a story. Who will be in the narrative? Where will the narrative take place? Why will the characters do what they do? What is the narrative about? When will the events happen? How will the conflict be resolved? If you want to write an effective narrative, a good story, you need to use figurative language in your story. What is figurative language? Figurative language is the use of descriptive words that bring your reader into the story. For example, simile. A simile is a comparison between two unlike things using like or as. For example, her smile was so wide it looked like a piano keyboard. We use here in this sentence we use like. Her smile was so wide it looked like a piano keyboard. Another example, he was as sick as a dog. We use as in the second sentence and like in the first sentence, so it's simile. Another figure of speech is metaphor. A metaphor directly compares two unlike things without using like or as. This is the only difference between simile and metaphor. For example, the boy was a golden knight protecting his little sister from the fire-breathing dragon that lives in the sandbox. We use here the comparison without using as or like. It's metaphor. We have only personification. Personification assigns human characteristics and traits to non-human objects. Example, the school gates welcomed us. The school gates welcomed us. The stars dance in the sky. Of course, the school gates can't welcome, and also the stars can't dance. We have also hyperbole. Hyperbole is the use of gross exaggeration to describe something that could never happen in real life. For example, the teacher's voice was so loud that astronauts orbiting Earth could hear the lecture. So it's exaggeration. We have another figurative language, it's alliteration. Alliteration is the repetition of two or more sounds. For example, Stan the strong surfer saved several swimmers on Saturdays. Alliteration of the S sounds. The S sound is repeated in most of the words in the sentence. And we have also onomatopoeia. Onomatopoeia is the word that imitates a sound. For example, the cow mows in the pasture. Mow is the onomatopoeia.